Hey everybody, so last night I saw The Kitchen, directed by Andrea Burloff, starring Melissa McCarthy, Tiffany Haddish, Elizabeth Moss, Common, and Domhnall Gleeson. The Kitchen did not have to be a bad movie. I feel there are good bones to it, but the skeleton is still horribly flawed from the get-go. The entire film, simply put, is horrendously amateurish to me. In case you did not know previously, this movie is based off of a graphic novel published by DC Vertigo. And the movie itself feels as if the entire graphic novel was pressed together like a child pressing a mound of Play Doh together in between their hands in an attempt to fit an entire story arc into an hour and 42 minutes. And the film suffers for it. Characters are introduced with little to no background information to clue the audience into knowing who they are, where they come from, or how our main characters know them. Our main characters' story arcs have been rushed faster than Usain Bolt runs a 100-meter dash, and the story just trudges along, trying to pull a limp, lifeless body behind it. I think the sound design was terrible. In one scene, Moss is kicking a dead body, and the sound design sounds completely fake. And the screams that are in the audio we are hearing through the theater speakers were clearly added in the editing bay. Multiple times it feels as if lines have been ADR'd because we clearly do not see the actor or actress's mouth move, and the soundtrack feels as if the person who composed the music for this simply looked up most popular songs in late 1978 and early 1979. Every 3 minutes, there is a new song playing in the background to make sure the audience is saying, "Hey, I know this song. I'm going to stay awake for this movie just a little bit longer because I like these songs." The cast as a whole, I think, did a bad job. Gleason and Moss have absolutely zero chemistry. McCarthy used a horrible accent the entire movie. I could not tell exactly if it was supposed to be an Irish or an Italian accent, which is confusing given the fact that everybody we are seeing in this movie, besides Tiffany Haddish, is supposed to be an Irish person. But you can't tell. And Tiffany Haddish was simply out of place. Every line of dialogue delivered by her felt wonky, out of place, and just simply bad. For me, she was the worst part of the movie by far, and going into it, I was excited to see what she was going to do. I wanted to see her try something different and be something else besides just being the annoying comic relief in every movie like she normally is. I wanted to see her try something different. I wanted to see her try to tackle something different and something a little bit more out of her comfort zone. And unfortunately, it fell flat. It didn't feel right. It didn't feel accurate. And it just felt out of place for her as an actress. Everything in this movie, from acting wise, everybody either felt incredibly amateurish or they were hamming it up and way over the top. There is no in between in this movie. You either didn't give a shit, you're pulled from a Broadway play, it feels like, or you're doing the absolute most to try to get your next role in Hollywood. And it's blatant in every scene in the movie, and it really stands out, and it really does not look good. Finally, the setting for this movie is horrible. The movie has come out within the same 3 week span that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out. A movie which literally feels as if it had been filmed in the 60s but distributed in modern times. The Kitchen, however, uses a terrible combination of fake sets and horrendous CGI to make it seem as if this was filmed in 1970 New York City, and it's very clearly fake. Multiple times the camera pans up and looks at the street. It's horrible PlayStation 2 graphics CGI. They're going across the Brooklyn Bridge and everything's fake. They use the same shot multiple times to establish New York City and it looks terrible. And the entire time, everything that's filmed simply feels as if it's on a horrible set or on a CGI green screen stage, and it's blatant the entire time. I was expecting anything from this movie, and yet somehow I still feel disappointed. But this movie does offer a glimmer of hope, surprisingly. Like I said, this movie is based off of a comic book that is not about superheroes. And while I love my superhero movies just as much as the next guy, I also want to see smaller comics adapted to the screen. There is so much more to comics than just capes and spandex. And if movies like this, V for Vendetta, A History of Violence, Road to Perdition, The Kingsman, Kick Ass, and Sin City can be made, I feel as if comic books will always succeed at the box office and can bring smaller titles to the big screen, which some people have never heard of. There are thousands of comics out there that aren't focused on heroes that I would love to see adapted to the screen. However, I unfortunately have to give The Kitchen a 4.6 out of 10.